In 2015, NASA carried out a unique experiment. Scientists wanted to answer a fascinating question. What happens to the human body in space if you stay there for a very long time? But the most intriguing part was that two people with identical DNA took part in this study, Mark and Scott Kelly. These identical twins helped researchers uncover the mysteries of how space affects the human body. And one of the surprising results was that one of the brothers actually grew younger. In this episode, we'll talk about that study and about twins in general. Why have they sparked both curiosity and fear for thousands of years? Why did they become subjects of inhumane experiments? And what is this mysterious process that allows not just one child to be born, but two or even three at once? But first, a quick reminder. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon if you haven't already. When a woman gives birth to two or even more identical children at once, people have long wondered, is this truly a blessing, or could there be something supernatural behind it? Questions like these have fascinated humanity since ancient times. The Greeks told stories of the twins Castor and Pollux, sons of Leda. Pollux, the immortal one, was born after Zeus seduced Leda in the form of a swan, while Castor was the child of her husband Tyndareus. When Castor died, Pollux begged Zeus to share his immortality so that he could remain with his brother. Zeus answered by turning them into the constellation of Gemini that we can still see in the night sky. In Indian mythology, we encounter the Ashwins, divine twins symbolizing the morning and evening star. In Norse myths, we see Frey and Freya. In Egypt, Osiris and Isis. And in the Old Testament, Jacob and Esau. Even in their mother's womb, Jacob and Esau struggled against each other, foreshadowing the conflict between the two nations they would later represent, the Israelites and the Edomites. Esau, the firstborn, was meant to inherit the blessing, but Jacob, through cunning, took it for himself. Their reconciliation many years later became a symbol of forgiveness and unity. Across cultures, twins have always stood for duality, good and evil, light and darkness, the spiritual and the material. Why is it that in about 10% of births, more than one child is delivered at the same time? People have been trying to answer this question for centuries. At first, it was explained as the work of the gods. But of course, back then, everything was attributed to divine intervention. From a scientific perspective, the earliest theories go back to Hippocrates, who believed that twins appeared when a double portion of semen entered the womb. Aristotle suggested the idea of two separate waves of ejaculation, and Avicenna generally agreed with this assumption. During the Renaissance, however, William Harvey challenged these views, pointing out that multiple offspring are closely tied to the division of what he called egg-like material. In the early 19th century, the Baltic German scientist Karl Ernst von Baer made a breakthrough when he discovered the human egg cell. This brought researchers much closer to the truth. But the turning point came in 1875, when Francis Galton, a cousin of Charles Darwin, published the results of his study. He observed two groups of twins. The first group looked nearly identical, while the second were born at the same time but showed clear physical differences. Galton concluded that the first type came from a single egg, while the second resulted from the fertilization of two separate eggs. At that time, the terms monozygotic and dizygotic, or in plain words, identical and fraternal twins, had not yet been coined. Still, Galton's work laid the foundation for modern theory. Later, with the discovery of DNA structure, scientists confirmed that monozygotic twins share an identical genetic code, while dizygotic twins are as different as ordinary siblings. It may seem like all the mysteries have been solved, and yet, even today, we still don't fully understand why or under what circumstances a fertilized egg sometimes splits into two embryos. Even with identical genes, Hippocrates already wondered why twins could sometimes suffer from different illnesses instead of sharing the same ones. Over time, the so-called twin method became a widely used approach in science. One of the earliest well-known examples was the famous coffee experiment of Sweden's King Gustav III. Unlike us today, Gustav was a strong opponent of coffee, believing it to be harmful to health. To prove his point, he arranged a remarkable trial. Two identical twin brothers, both sentenced to death, were offered a deal. Instead of execution, they could serve life sentences if they agreed to participate. One twin had to drink 3 cups of coffee every day, while the other consumed 3 cups of tea. In the end, the tea-drinking twin died first, at the age of 83. His brother, the coffee drinker, outlived him, as well as King Gustav and even the doctors overseeing the experiment. But the most horrifying twin experiments came decades later at the hands of Nazi doctor Josef Mengele. When trains carrying Jews, Roma, and other prisoners arrived at Auschwitz, Mengele personally selected twins for his research. They were separated from their families and placed in slightly better conditions, cleaner barracks, more food, even toys. But this was only to keep them healthy enough for cruel experiments. Twins were deliberately infected with diseases such as typhus or malaria. One twin would be treated with experimental methods, while the other was left untreated for comparison. Mengele also performed brutal surgeries, often far removed from real medicine or science, and unbearably painful for the victims. It is estimated he experimented on about 1,500 pairs of twins. Only around 200 survived. Among them were sisters Ava and Miriam Moses, who later wrote a book describing the crimes of the man prisoners called the Angel of Death. Even after World War II, interest in the twin method did not fade. Scientists became fascinated by another question. What shapes a person more, their genes or their upbringing? Just imagine unexpectedly meeting your twin and then discovering yet another one. These men went through exactly that. Their names are Robert Schofrin, Eddie Galland, and David Kellman, 3 brothers who were, in fact, triplets, and who discovered each other entirely by accident at the age of 19. Their separation was part of a secret scientific study carried out in the United States by the Jewish adoption agency Louise Wise Services and a research team led by psychiatrist Peter Neubauer. The goal was to examine how much human development is shaped by genetics versus environment. The story of the brothers quickly became a media sensation. It turned out that the triplets had been placed in families of different backgrounds. Robert grew up in a wealthy household, Eddie in a middle-class family, and David in a working-class home. None of the adoptive parents knew the boys had brothers. For nearly 2 decades, researchers secretly monitored them, conducting periodic interviews and tests. When the triplets finally reunited, they even opened a restaurant together. But tension slowly built among them. Eddie suffered from depression, and at the age of 33, he took his own life. Robert, raised in affluence, became a lawyer, while David, who grew up in poverty, worked as an insurance agent. The full findings of the study were never officially published. All the records remain sealed in the Yale University archives until the year 2065. Neubauer himself remarked in interviews that genes have a deeper influence than upbringing. It was later revealed that at least 13 other sets of siblings were deliberately separated for the same research. Yet Neubauer never faced punishment for these actions. Another extraordinary case is that of June and Jennifer Gibbons, twin sisters born in 1963. From early childhood, they barely spoke to anyone but each other, earning them the nickname the Silent Twins. They even created their own secret language that only they understood. Sadly, they became notorious for less happy reasons. In their teenage years, they committed minor crimes, arson and vandalism, and were arrested. Instead of prison, they were committed to a psychiatric hospital where they spent 11 years. Doctors noted that Jennifer dominated June, creating a toxic relationship. While in the hospital, the sisters declared that one of them had to die so the other could live a normal life. Shockingly, soon after their release, Jennifer died unexpectedly of myocarditis at the age of 29. The exact cause was never explained. After her sister's death, June finally integrated into society, returned to her family, and began communicating with others. Their story remains a unique demonstration of the psychological bond between twins. Scientists gave a name to the private languages twins sometimes invent for themselves: cryptophagia. Research shows that about 40% of twins develop such a form of communication, often accompanied by mirrored gestures and expressions. In most cases, this fades by the age of 3, but in rare cases, like the Gibbons sisters, it lasts much longer. And now, back to the Kelly twins. Scott embarked on a year-long mission aboard the International Space Station, while his brother Mark stayed on Earth. Because of their identical genetic code, NASA scientists saw a rare opportunity to study how space affects both the human body and mind. This research is crucial for future missions, such as colonizing Mars, where astronauts may be away for years. The team monitored vital indicators: muscle and bone mass, the effects of microgravity on the eyes and brain, gene activity, cognitive speed and focus, psychological responses to isolation, and even telomeres, the end segments of chromosomes linked to aging. Scott spent 340 days in orbit, the longest single flight for an American astronaut. During that time, his telomeres actually lengthened, a sign of cellular rejuvenation. Could this be the secret to stopping aging? Unfortunately, no. After returning to Earth, his telomeres quickly reverted to their original state.
Despite daily exercise, weightlessness had severely reduced his bone density and muscle strength. He also experienced vision problems caused by increased pressure inside the skull. Meanwhile, Mark, who stayed on Earth, showed no such changes. The study marked a breakthrough in understanding how space impacts the human body. Today, twin research continues in several institutions around the world. At the University of Minnesota, scientists are still trying to answer one of the oldest questions. Are we shaped more by our genes or by the way we are raised? Using surveys, personality tests, cognitive assessments, biological samples, and long-term monitoring, they've uncovered striking patterns. Genetics account for roughly 40 to 60% of the risk of developing mental health disorders, such as depression, antisocial behavior, anxiety, or addictions. Intelligence, too, is strongly influenced by genes, about 80% determined by heredity. Environment, however, plays a bigger role in childhood, while with age, genetics become more dominant. Identical twins raised apart still tend to share many personality traits, such as temperament. Similar studies at King's College London, focusing on early childhood development, have led to the same conclusion. DNA sets the foundation of our physical and mental makeup, but experience and environment shape who we ultimately become. Scientists have uncovered many secrets of twins, but far from all. For instance, does twin telepathy really exist? No scientific evidence supports it, yet many twins report powerful emotional connections that defy easy explanation. Another mystery: why does nature allow twins to be born at all? Is it a mere accident, or does it serve some evolutionary purpose? And what about you? What do you think matters more, our genes or how we are raised? Share your thoughts in the comments below.